The former ACT Chief Minister and co-convener of the Liberals for Yes, Kate Carnell, joins me live from Canberra. Kate, thanks so much for your time. You think Gary Johns should resign over this?
Look, I think that all of the reasonable and fair-minded No campaign leaders should publicly condemn him. Let's be fair, he's a No campaign board member. And I think to have these sorts of comments in the public arena, apart from being deeply disturbing, they're racially discriminatory policies that have been discredited over years and years. You know, they're in the dustbin of history, these sorts of comments, and they're nothing to do with the referendum. Now, this is a referendum that acknowledges Australia's first people. Now, there's no doubt about that, through a voice to Parliament, which is consultative. You know, it's not to do with these sorts of things. So I do think that the leaders of the No campaign should really publicly say to Mr Johns that this is simply unacceptable and possibly he should resign as a board member of the No campaign.
Kate, to play devil's advocate here, don't we need more debate, not less?
Look, we need more debate based upon fact, absolutely. In fact, I think it's really important that the voice referendum debate, I mean, it's going to be passionate no matter what, but I think both sides have every right to make their case, both for and against. But what we've got to do is focus on the facts of the issue, what the referendum actually does, and also what it doesn't do, and do that in a respectful manner and base it on fact. You know, we've heard some extraordinary things that, you know, like somehow you're going to have to pay taxes to the voice. The comments that Mr Johns makes are simply unacceptable and discriminatory.
Yeah.
And look, what we need out of this referendum is we need Australia to end up a fairer and more united country, not the opposite. And that's what these sorts of comments do.
This was meant to be a unifying moment, this referendum, and from what I can see, it is anything but so far.
Laura, you're absolutely right, and it's unacceptable. What we've got to do, people like me and Liberals for Yes, the No campaign, is we've got to pull it back and bring it back to focusing on the referendum, what it actually does, what it doesn't do, and do it in a respectful, reasonable manner. Nobody doubts that both sides should put forward their case for and against. That's absolutely what should happen. But it should be based upon fact, and it shouldn't be discriminatory. You know, this is a really important time for Australia. It's a really important time for reconciliation. We've got to make sure that's what this does.
Are you saying that Gary Johns' comments are perhaps a dog whistle to a small subset of Australians who actually would agree with him? And do you think potentially that group is growing bigger despite the Yes campaign's best efforts?
Look, Laura, you're absolutely right, and I certainly hope you're wrong about it getting bigger. But the comments that Mr Johns is making about blood testing Indigenous people, he's talking about Indigenous people having more rights than non-Indigenous people. Remember, that's not what The Voice does. The Voice is a consultative group that will ensure that government can consult early with Indigenous Australians only on policies that directly affect them. And that's what good policy is about. You know, if we'd always, I suppose, consulted with Indigenous Australians on policies we in government put in place about them, I think we would have ended up in a much better place than we are. So what Mr Johns is saying is simply irrelevant to the debate that we're currently having, but there's no doubt that it will appeal to a very small group of Australians, and hopefully that group's not getting bigger.
Are you in the group that says potentially, given where we're at, this vote needs to be delayed, or you think full steam ahead?
Full steam ahead, Laura. We've got to do this now. There's no reason to put it off. We know now exactly what the referendum says, what the referendum does, and it's important to also remember that how The Voice works will be set in legislation in the federal parliament. So all of our representatives will get a chance to vote on that. And if, as some people say, oh, yeah, but we're not sure it'll work. Well, if that's the case, then the federal parliament can tweak the legislation that determines how the voice is elected or appointed, how it actually works.
Yeah.
So this is really safe, Laura.
Yep. And as has been pointed out, the federal parliament, whether it's now or in 10 or 20 years' time, if it passes, will always retain power, and it is an advisory body. We'll speak soon, Kate Carnell. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Laura.